Welcome to another episode of Inspire People, Impact Lives. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, and by trade, I'm a financial advisor, and by training, leader and now managing partner at Northwestern Mutual. Last week, hope you enjoyed our release of the interview that I was interviewed on by Tina Paulus Krause in her Leadership Legacy series. I also want to give a big shout out to all of our golfers and sponsors that helped us raise a buttload of money for our fourth annual Driving Out Childhood Cancer golf outing. And so with that, the weather was awesome. I know everyone had a great time, and it was so much fun to be able to raise that money and be able to give back to the kids that are suffering from cancer, and hopefully we get a cure for that very soon. But this week, I'm very excited to have our special guest, James Tighe, co-founder and executive director of Clean Lakes Alliance. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Really excited to have you on, talk about our lakes and talk about how you've grown this organization so quickly. So for those that don't know about Clean Lakes Alliance, tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so Clean Lakes Alliance is actually a local organization working on protecting the local lakes. So Madison has 5 lakes. We have 58 miles of shoreline on those 5 lakes. And really, our lakes are in peril. They are, due to pollution and runoff and climate change, they're at this tipping point, and we've come together as a community to take on that challenge and change the course.
Yeah, so very important topic, because obviously there's so many people that listen to our show that enjoy our lakes in many different fashions. What I was curious about when I moved here in '93, so this has been Clean Lakes Alliance was founded when?
Yeah, so our actual date is November 8th, 2010.
Okay. So 2010, how long, because I know that opportunity and necessity, when they meet, things are born, right?
Yep.
And so that's what this was born. How long of this have we seen this kind of downslide with our lakes?
So actually, we've been on the downslide since about 1850s, 1860s. So the Madison
long time.
It's a long lake. So you got 150 plus years that really, as we built out our community, both on the agricultural side and on the urban side, we didn't really take full advantage of what we should do to help protect the lakes. All the runoff, anything that you put on the land eventually goes into the lakes, and that's how we've designed our system. I mean, think about your home. You want to get the water off of your property as fast as you can.
Yeah, away from the house.
Away from the house. Yeah. And we've built this infrastructure that actually funnels that mostly in pipes into our local lakes.
Okay, so yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So moved here in '93. I guess what I was going with that is I didn't ever hear of this being an issue as we were, swimming, doing whatever on the lakes until the last decade, which I think is probably a big reason the Clean Lakes Alliance has been around. You've done a great job with social media, in the news, all that stuff. So what were the biggest struggles early on with starting this and getting awareness out there and fundraising and all that? Because it's a not-for-profit, correct?
Correct. Yep. So Clean Lakes Alliance is a 501c3, so that means that if you give a donation, you can write it off on your taxes. It's a federal designation. But the issue was when we were starting it, is like, okay, everybody knows that there's a problem with the lakes. I mean, everybody with quotes around that. But there was no unifying organization that would bring all the different parties together. So I'd go out and meet with people like Jim Imhoff, George Nelson of Channel 3 when he was alive, who was a mentor to me. And they're like, well, something needs to be done. But nobody sort of took it like, you need to do something, not just be a nonprofit cheerleading, but you need to have a plan. So we actually found the advice that you need a very strategic, very finite goal, and that goal is to reduce phosphorus into lakes by 50%. So instead of just being a cheerleader for the lakes or saying, hey, somebody fix them, was defining what the goal was. And so the organization sort of moved more quickly because we had a very specific goal that we're trying to attain, is reduce the phosphorus inputs to lakes. So that brought everybody together, but it took from about backing up probably May of 2010 all the way to January 1st of 2011, going out every single day, meeting with community leaders, listening to them, and finding out what they knew about the lakes, what they thought the problem was, and how they thought the cure was, and sort of collectively over a period of time figuring out how to build an organization now about with one specific goal in mind is to reduce that phosphorus going to the lakes.
So I didn't.
A lot of listening.
Yeah, so I didn't get this to the get-go, and I didn't prepare you for this question. Probably should have, but why you? Why did you choose to take up this cause and this banner?
So that's actually pretty easy. I was the guy out at the college bar, and I'd be talking about college bars in Madison, or the lakes in Madison, or the state capitol in Madison, or Camp Randall. And my friends, fraternity brothers, like, yeah, James, we know Madison's the best place to live. So I came back to Madison. I've always been in roles sort of promoting or doing something with the community. And, there was a thing called the Clean Lakes Festival.
Mm-hmm.
It was a group of volunteers from the ski team. And I took that and rolled it up into a business plan because I get to promote and make Madison a better place. And so I love the city. I'm a townie, actually born here at St. Mary's. And it was really easy. So I don't even think of it as work. I'm just trying to make Madison a better place. And I already have such a high regard to it. You just start making something better.
And you're just obviously passionate about Madison and making it
Yeah.
a better place. So that makes sense.
And I guess the second part is that I love the lakes because I went out on the lakes or had lake experiences growing up.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking of. Is like we never worried about blue-green algae, and we never worried about this stuff at the beaches or when we were out tubing or whatever when you and I were kids.
Right.
I guess that's where I was kind of going with that downslide of the lakes. But you say it's been happening for over 100
we've
years.
built out the system for a long time, but actually starting in 1999 is when climate change really started hitting Madison. Most people don't know this. If you look at a 1-inch rain event in a 24-hour period, right? So growing up, we might have what's called farmer rain, where it rain quietly for a couple of days, and maybe once in a while you get a thunderstorm. But now what's happened is that because of our atmosphere, we're getting these gully washers. So we used to maybe get a 1-inch rain event or a 2-inch rain event or a 3-inch rain in a 24-hour period. That would happen once a decade. Now we're getting multiple ones in a year. So our systems were not built to handle that much water coming down that fast. So 1999 is where you start getting these more gully washers, which means that even more of the soil and everything on the land is going to the lakes. And so that took us up to where we are today because of climate change.
Yeah, and you think about last summer with how much we got in one 24-hour period.
Right.
I mean, Middleton was 12 inches, Cross Plains 15 inches, and then you look down Madison and across how much that impacted the lakes.
But we also got an inch or inch and a half in last couple days of February in that same year on frozen land.
That all just slid in.
Which
Yeah.
the land is frozen in winter, so that means everything that's on the land goes in the lakes.
Yeah.
So we had multiple. It wasn't just the flood. It was the thing that happened back. If you're getting rain in February, you've got a problem.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. I just thought of the big event midsummer, what it was last year, or late summer. Was it August?
August.
Yeah. That was a big deal. So what growing pains did you encounter early on with the organization?
We did a lot really fast, and we probably didn't tell people as much about what we were doing as just doing it. So there's a balance of, you can do really hard work, but if only a couple of people know about that good work, you really aren't telling people what we're doing. So that was one issue, is actually getting the capacity to let people know that you were doing good work. And so that was one issue. Being a founder-led organization, so a good nonprofit and community organization, which is where we're in now, is that I'm stepping back as a, leading person and trying to get even more people at the grassroots level, volunteers, citizen monitors, involved in the efforts. So you're creating that cultural shift. So changing from being the boss with all the ideas and all the creativity to having many people do that work is a cultural shift that's going on in our organization.
So did it start with just you on staff?
There is probably a list of 6 to 8 people that would consider themselves founders. I guess I'm the lead founder, being the one that I was the one that says, we should actually do this. I wrote the business plan and met with everybody. But, George Gialamas was one of the first sponsors of the Clean Lakes Festival. Andy Burrish, beginning board members, a lot of different people. But I'm been sort of the staff person, leading the charge.
Well, I think that needs to happen. I've been involved with organizations where they didn't have a lead staff person, but had, say, volunteers' money behind it.
Many chiefs.
Many chiefs, right? Well, but the problem with that is that there may be some good ideas. There's very little follow through, right? Whereas if you have a staff person that helps with the follow through on those ideas, things can actually get done,
right?
And possibly even grow, which is the intent. So, what does the organization look like today? As you say, you're stepping back to that lead from the lead role.
Yeah. So I now have a board of 49 people. They meet 6 times a year. We have 2,000 donors, whether it's businesses or individuals. We have a budget of $1.9 million. I have a staff of 12 people. Half of that staff is a professional staff that's gotten their master's or undergrad in some lake management type cause. So we have a science department. We're the second largest lakes organization in the United States of America. The first one's in Lake Tahoe. That seems pretty obvious to everybody that Lake Tahoe would be the big lake organization in the country.
Yep.
The second one that we tie back and forth is Lake George out in New York.
Okay.
So depending on that. But, we've given away $1 million to do projects. We'll be coming on that $1 million mark here in July. We have almost 80 citizen monitors going out and checking the lakes. But so we really try to open up the breadth. We'll do 32 volunteer days this year with different companies going out and protecting the land and working at the beaches. So it's really building that beast that is running on all the pistons to make it happen. So it's not just me doing something behind an Excel spreadsheet and like, who are my top 10 people I can call to raise money for?
Yeah.
But now we have a development director. You have somebody who used to do Adam Soderson from our team who used to do PR for Land's End, and he's on my team now.
Yeah. Well, and that helps too, I think, because as you look at or think about those top 10 donors that may have started with you, their passions and interests may have changed, and maybe they're not the largest donor, but they take a step back as well. But now you have what you had mentioned as like the beast can go out and get additional donors that may be the next top 10.
Right. And also taking those donors, and there's a progression of, hey, you might give us $35, but next year you're giving $35 and you're telling your neighbor to do it. And then, we've gone from, I think we had maybe like $34,000 donors, and now we have like $184,000 donors.
Yeah.
Or more.
That's awesome. So when did you know it was time to scale the team?
I remember actually walking out of our office around the corner here on Excelsior Drive and thinking 5 and 10 years out that would be huge. And I started scaling the team really after the first 6-8 months.
Okay.
But I did
so
that
pretty quickly.
But I did that through internships. Madison has several university, several colleges, and I knew I couldn't pay to get full-time staff, but we had internships from non-paid to part-time paid to full-time summer to year-round paid, and we just kept done and using that system. You got really bright kids, millennials want to give back, and built the system, which then eventually, you might have an intern. We first had an intern to do marketing and communications free. Then the position got big enough and grew up, and it got to a paid position. Then it was a full-time paid position. Then I was able to get, somebody right out of school as a job, and now I have a director level and told them away from one of America's biggest brands being Land's End. So building since day one. And we still have the intern system in place to bring a pipeline in of new energy into the organization.
And I identify with that a lot. We have a great internship as well, and we're giving them real life experience.
Right.
And ours is paid, but they get to do what we do.
We get paid $12 an hour.
Nice. So what we have found though as well is it brings in so much energy, and can be new ideas and stuff like that. Where I hear a lot of our competitors have kind of paper pushing.
Or they say that
internships?
internships take too much time.
Right.
They're not worth it. They don't go in. It takes a lot of energy. I actually remember sitting down with my team, probably like in March one year, and said, everybody, and maybe I had like 8 employees, said, everybody's going to have a summer intern. And I'm like, if you don't have an intern, you're fired. And it forced them, but now they all love interns.
Yeah. And you do have to build that culture, and it's from the top down that this is something we believe in, and we're never going to graduate from that internship culture because it can bring in such, and especially as, you know, you and I were talking about age before we got on here, but
Right.
like, you know, as we get older as well, there's new ideas, new energy, just new focus that can be brought from that, and just many different talents.
Yeah. I mean, I think the younger generation even uses social media differently than I do.
Right.
You know, I'm still on Facebook. A lot of, you know, millennials are, they're only on Instagram.
Yeah, they say that's for old people.
Right.
So Chad over here is telling me that we have to diversify our social media as well. So, so how do you continue to set high standards for the team?
That we also made the cultural shift about 4 years ago. We went to the point of having a strategic plan. And that strategic plan is built upon through multiple ways through our donors and very grassroots oriented, all the way up to the point, you know, strategic plan, all the way down to by department, all the way down to work plans, all the way down to weekly. And the staff really embraces and they write the plan. And so, you know, from the top, from the board and community, like, you know, we want clean lakes. Well, that down to like, what are you going to do this week for the lakes? And letting them be involved in that and not just saying, you know, this is our goal is to be a $2 million profit. Our goal is, you know, to have a more educated community about what the threats are to our lakes.
So the staff and you come up with a plan, present to the board.
Actually, the board and the committees and our donors come up with what they want us to do. And then we turn that into a plan.
That's great.
And we send out emails to our donors. We have working sessions with committees, a working session with our board to making sure everybody has a voice in that. We actually just did a sort of an update to our plan last month with our board.
Have you had to step in and say we need to be more ambitious or less ambitious when you see the plan or the final draft?
There is tweaking.
Yeah.
You know, like I have somebody the other day said they wanted to do something else this summer, and I'm like, you're not gonna be able to do it. So sometimes I'm now holding people back because there's so much energy. Like you gotta like also it's quality of life. I mean, one of our things is that we work for nonprofits. We're not paid as much as everybody else. So, you know, you got to balance that work-life balance, because otherwise you'll burn people out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
so it's been more pulling people back, laying out big goals for the future, but on sort of that, you know, operational plan, you know, sometimes saying, no, we shouldn't do something.
So there's change management there too.
Yep.
Think about that. So what is your philosophy on change?
If you're not changing, you're falling behind.
I agree. My dad always beat into my head, green and growing or ripe and rotting.
Yep. And so that's like somebody will say, oh, but this is how we did it last year. Well, that's not how we're going to do it this year. You have to do what you did last year, get rid of some things, add on something, and be something different. Because if you're not changing in today's environment, you're falling behind.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So speaking of change, what do we as a community need to do to help our lakes regain their glory?
Well, we're in the middle of that process right now. So there's cultural change going on. So think about recycling.
Yep.
And how you and I grew up, or anybody around the United States, what you did for recycling. Maybe you tied newspapers up and put it out in front of your house. Maybe you collected cans and brought it to the recycling place behind the mall to get your coins.
I used to crush cans.
Right, crush cans. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what. Do you crush cans now?
Nope, they go right in the recycling bin.
Recycling. So what we're creating is an environment for a cultural shift, putting our waters and our lakes first. That meaning that we're starting off with, you got to get your leaves out of the street, the low hanging fruit. The type of newspapers in 2019 is making sure that your grass clippings and your leaves are out of the street. Because what happens is that the water goes through those and strips out the phosphorus like a tea bag. And that phosphorus, dissolved phosphorus, goes right into the lakes. So that's the low-hanging fruit. There's a list a mile long, all the way up to the point that we don't have plastic straws for the lakes. It might be we continue to build out our stormwater system. So if you build a new house, and if you're not familiar with west side of Madison, because I know this is beyond Madison, it's the far edge of a community where you're starting to build new suburbs. Those new suburbs are still piping their stormwater, everything on the street, into the lakes. And at some point, we're going to have to think differently that piping everything into our water system is not the best. Maybe more should go into infiltration. Maybe more should go into retention ponds to let that water go back into the lakes. So we're on a continuum. Some people are already out there. Some people are composting in their own yard. They don't use a sprinkler. They have maybe some native flowers in the yard, which are great also for bees and butterflies, if you know about that problem going on in our world. So some people are way out there, but if everybody can just get those leaves out of the street, then we could do the next thing. Because if it was 1980 and I told you had to rip out your kitchen and put in a new drawer in your kitchen where you keep your pots and pans, and that's where the drawer is going to be, that you're going to put your cans in one thing and your recycling and your trash in the other, you probably thought I was crazy if you thought we're going to remodel every kitchen in the United States of America. But I would bet a high percentage of homes in America now have the recycling drawer.
Yeah, two trash cans, one for trash, one for recycle in the same drawer.
But now that's very common. So what are those things for the lakes? A rain garden at your home, a rain barrel at your home, native plantings, because that will soak up a lot more water. So not everybody needs a green front yard. You could have an area of your yard that has native grasses that look just as great. I bet you played Whistling Straits.
I have not played it, but I've been there.
But up there, but they got the big grasses, and everything like fescue, that. Yeah. Looks really great. Yep. Looks beautiful. We're going to have to change our habits.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So the leaves are the lowest hanging fruit in getting that out of the streets.
For the urban community.
Yeah.
The rural community, so we get about 100,000 pounds of phosphorus goes into the lakes every year. For every pound of phosphorus, 500 pounds of algae are created.
Wow.
So the urban community is about 30% of that. 30% of the problem is the urban side. 70% is the rural. And they're getting squeezed in a couple areas because we can continue to build suburbs. So you still have agriculture out there. So you got less land to work with. And so there's more intensive farming going on. You got more manure being made. And then you got these rain events. So they're going to have to start resculpting. And they are. They're doing, things like buffer strips. I mean, I could go on and on, about lake items.
This is your passion. So
but there's a lot to be done.
So now that leads me to, there's a lot to be done with politicians. So you're dealing with them all the time.
Yep.
And so I find politicians to be maddening. How do you go about dealing with them to get negotiations done to be able to do some of these things?
So I'm going to say everybody wants to do good work, right? I mean, the politician is in office because they love their community and they want to do better. And we are in a fight at the government level for every dollar. Yeah. So your tax dollar that goes in, how much of that tax dollar is going to roads, fire, police, school, education, health concerns, and that dollar needs to be split. My job is to build up a grassroots effort that more and more people put water as the first basic need as our community and fight against and give them the cover to spend the money. So, for example, we just spent as a community $10 million to buy 160 acres north of Pheasant Branch Conservancy. So Pheasant Branch is a large piece of several hundred acres, total of 500 now.
I live right next to it.
And it goes in. So we bought $10 million by 160 acres. And nobody... and we gave the political power and the community recognition of how important that was to make that strategic purchase.
Well, that's great.
And I think the politicians just need to hear from the people that my cause or our cause, the lakes, is important. And if you give them the ideas and the support, they can make those actions when necessary.
So how have you found, because I feel negotiations are so important in business.
Yep.
And this could be taken a number of different ways, but I think that negotiating with politicians for your cause, you being good at that, has so much translation to business. What have you found in arguments or conversations? Let's say they're not arguments. Let's say they're conversations, are talking points for you to be able to leverage your cause to get some of that dollar.
One being the big beast in the room. When you've got 2,000 people who are willing to email or make their cause known, as giving the letting the politicians who've been elected know that this is important for them. So one, whatever you're going to the negotiations, make sure, you don't go into any fight unless you know you're going to win.
Lesson number one.
Right? I mean, so what's in your tool belt, right? And so for us, it's having a very strong, healthy organization, having a larger donation. I don't care if you give me $25,000 in a stock donation or you're giving me $35. That voice to a politician, for a lot of reasons, is the same. Also having a lot of community leadership involved. So, I have people who are involved in an organization, such as former mayors or people who've run for Senate, but also, school teachers and those voices. So it's really, we represent a lot of people.
The breadth of the community.
The breadth of the community. And it's not just, this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. This is not a farmer issue. This is not a suburban issue. This is water.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, hey, you can fight for all sorts of things in our community and in any community. But if the lakes close due to algae or cyanobacteria, you can just lock the door and walk away from Madison. I don't care there are a lot of good causes in Madison, but think about it. What happens if all the beaches close?
Man, I wouldn't even know. So you
won't be able to recruit anybody.
Yeah.
Do you want to recruit somebody? So somebody goes, I reached out and this person went to MIT and Josh is trying to give them come to Madison, and the person, goes online and goes, wait a minute, Google's Madison, Wisconsin. That's that city that every July the lakes close and you can't go in because they're toxic.
No, the water's toxic.
You won't be able to get anybody to move here.
Yeah,
think about funding schools. There will be no people moving here.
Think about the beauty of our skyline, the isthmus, and all the pictures that we post as a community include the two big lakes.
Every single press release. I mean, there was something recently like the best city to live in, and it was the best lakeside city because it's a lakeside city. I mean, the lakes define us, and I think you can talk about bringing all sorts of great things to Madison and doing all sorts of great things, but you got to protect the water.
And water
is life.
And water, yeah, right. It's a basic human need.
Yep.
So it was really interesting timing this morning. There was an article in the Wisconsin State Journal. The title is, "Could Wisconsin be the Silicon Valley of Water?" UW campus is trying to make it happen.
I had this conversation with the head of limnology on Friday morning, actually. So Wisconsin and University of Wisconsin-Madison is a land-grant university. So the federal government and the state said, hey, we want a university. We're going to give the university land as a land-grant university. There's other land-grant universities around the country. And they put obviously on the best piece of property that we had in our community, right? It's on the lake. We are the birthplace of limnology, which is the study of freshwater lakes. Literally, the director that just retired was basically knighted by the King of Sweden. And got the World Water Prize. We just need to take that asset, which is the lakes, and the work that's being done here, and bring it all together. The chancellor has authorized, this came out a month ago, for a water cluster hire, meaning that they're going to bring in 3 professors under 3 different disciplines. They're all going to be working on water.
So this is what you said, part of the they're looking at this being part of the budget, so part of that dollar.
Correct.
That all causes are fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, it was interesting in the article because it wasn't just about our lakes. They said Wisconsin's really unique in general. Is border on the left side is the Mississippi River, and the border on the north side is Lake Superior, and the border on the east side is Lake Michigan.
So something crazy. So Lake Superior, like take it above the continental United States and dump it out, covers like the entire nation, like 18 inches of water.
Yeah, that's how big it is.
Yeah, and so we have so much water, we probably don't respect it as much as we should.
Yeah, I once heard it because my dad started a water bottling company up in the UP.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be in Wisconsin, but because of some legal battles, it's now in the UP. But what he told me was if you put all the rest of the Great Lakes together, they wouldn't fill up half of Lake Superior.
Correct. Yeah, we are water rich. So there is the opportunity to really take that asset and learn from it to tell the rest of the world. Because at some point they're going to come, 100 years from now, they could all be coming at us to get the water that we have. We are water rich.
So are you playing a part in that potential budget, or is that a UW
So the
thing?
Clean Lakes Alliance is taking the leadership role to bring. We have a letter of intent signed by the county executive, the mayor of Madison, the secretary of the DNR, the secretary of Department of Ag and Consumer Protection, the dean of the UW Extension, the dean of the Nelson Institute, and the director of limnology, and myself, to basically the statement says, we've been working together a lot to work on the problem, but it's not enough. We're going to need to come together. We're all going to have to put in cash and update our strategic plan and our engineering plan to solve this problem. I suspect this will pick on up some more communities, and then we all have a point person that are going to start meeting on a regular basis, and we'll be hiring a new engineering firm, working more collaboratively over the next 12 to 18 months to come up with the solutions like we did back in 2012, but things have changed since 2012. If you spend $1 in 2012 and spend $1 in 2020, it doesn't get you as far as you know.
Yep. Inflation.
So we recognize that we need to do more. It's picking up on the governor's lead, but really bring everybody together at the local level to take care of the Madison 5 lakes. Because if we can't fix it here, if you can't fix it in a state capital in Wisconsin with University of Wisconsin there and all the smart, talented people and all the people doing monitoring and everybody who has a passion for it. If we can't fix it here, where else are you going to fix it?
Right.
And so this is a first of its kind effort. It's called the Yahara Clean Compact. So CLEAN is one of those great acronyms. Are you ready?
Ready.
So it's Capital, Lakes, Environmental Assessments and Needs.
Say that
so
5
CLEAN.
times fast.
No.
No, I didn't figure I'd get you on that one. But no, so that's really good. So it sounds like you're on the popular side of the table. Have you ever been on the unpopular side, and how have you negotiated or reacted in that?
Repetition of telling people what we actually are doing. We put on this event called Frozen Assets. It started out in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
It actually eclipsed the organization for a period of time. More people knew about this very fun fundraiser that had sort of a who's who in town, and people knew more about the fundraiser than the actual cause. But we've flipped that by now. So that was hard because it was like, well, all you guys do is do that big fundraiser. Well, yeah, because that's the first thing that caught your attention, which is fine. That's somebody's caught somebody's attention, but it's also changed. The amount of time you have to spend trying to communicate to people, whether it's a one-on-one meeting, a committee meeting, a board meeting, a newsletter, an email, a press. I mean, I think last year, since we hired Adam, we had 25 million impressions in local media. And it was that until because I went to marketing school, and you used to have to tell somebody, like, they would say, oh, you got to get somebody like 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking to really penetrate through having 4 kids and through all your daily life stuff and through your Instagram account and your work email and your personal email.
All the distractions.
And all the distractions. You have to hit somebody really hard over the head, like a big fundraiser, because then they realize you because they're all the friends there. Or it's just repetition over time, telling people about the good work that you do. And you have to do a lot more now and rethink how you do that than ever before.
Yeah, repetition truly is the mother of learning. And in this world, like you said, through all the distractions that we have, all the pings that we're getting, every different social media spot, you got to be in every single one of them because you don't know which
one.
Yeah. And where I was listening to a different podcast the other day, and they were talking about how niche marketing, you used to be able to go after one demographic and really target that. Now you have to try and hit everyone because you don't know who your target demographic really is.
Right. Or the time spent to go down into all those nuances, it's not worth it. You just rather do the shotgun approach.
Yeah.
I mean, but I do know, like, you do need to have a scalability, right? So, yeah, you need to have, whether somebody just wants to know, is it leaves out of the street, and that's enough, and they're okay with that. That's all I need to know. But then, you have to have an in-depth website. I need to be able to talk to you about a buffer strip that we bought that's 3 miles long and 3 feet wide, and it's on 3 different farms, and it goes on the deed of the farm. So your knowledge, for some people, they're okay, leaves out of the street, that's enough. But you also have to be able to go really deep and put that into videos and websites and writing. Maybe I should write a book someday.
Good. So how do you get the farmers then to act? And because it's obviously their business, their way of life. They're some of the hardest working people on this planet. And then you're asking them to also protect our lakes, which is very important. They may see it as they're just trying to put food on the table for their kids, whatever it may be. Is there any incentives for them to get this buffer strip and be able to act on their own accord, or is there any governmental help, or what's the solution there?
All of the above. So first, I think the farmers, there are a lot of really good farmers out there because they know that they need to protect their own soil, right? So they want to keep the soil on their own land. I mean, and everything that they can do to do that, and they're really doing really interesting, creative things to keep that soil on land, like cover crops, and I mentioned buffer strips, and doing different things with manure and composting. So most of the farmers have the right heart to do it, but right now, for several years now, they've been doing really, really good work. Now the question is, when their business is being squeezed, how do they deal with all that? And this is really sort of like the first full year of that squeeze. They're doing their best they can to put food on the table, get good yield from their crops, and so they actually might be looking for other ways to incentivize themselves to do that. So, we're buying these 3 more miles of buffer strips. So we actually pay a farmer the difference between a row crop and the price of like a harvestable wheat, right? So corn is going to get you X amount of dollars per bushel per acre, right?
Yep.
And we say, well, we rather have that be winter wheat, so it's a constant crop on the land, so there's never any exposed soil. There's a price difference between those two things.
So you cover the middle.
And we cover that price cost, and that's the way that you do that.
That's great. That's great. And that's a negotiation there as well.
Right.
So it's another tactic. So that's well. So I know we talked a little bit about that, but what are besides the potentially recruiting to Madison, what other implications are there for us if we're not taking care of the lakes?
There's, home values. The value of the, we all benefit that there's some people, about 3,000 of them, that live on the local lakes, that their house per square foot is more valuable than the rest of ours. And we all benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
And that we all benefit that in the schools. We all benefit that in the roads and hiring the police. And so the value of those properties goes down because nobody wants to buy them because there's algae in front
And
of
you're
them.
talking about property taxes.
Property taxes.
Yep.
Property tax revenue.
Yep.
I mean, that is a concern not just for the people who live in the lakes, but everybody else, because they're paying for more of their fair share of the property taxes. Recruitment and retention of employees. A lot of people now just don't go somewhere because of the almighty dollar. You know, you might pay somebody here $10,000 more than Chicago, but they're actually coming here not for the extra $10,000. They're doing here because after the office, they have a 3-minute commute and they can go kayaking or go on a lake or go windsurfing or go into a quieter. It's a quality of life. A lot more people are making that decision, especially younger people, to be here because we have a work-life balance.
No, that's really good. It's really good. So being that this is Inspire People, Impact Lives, how are you inspiring people? And we've talked a lot about this, but I want to surmise it for everyone.
Yep.
How are you inspiring people to take action?
Well, one, I think, is letting people know about the problem. You know, you've got to let people know about the problem is there's too much runoff. We inspire people to get involved, whether that's something as simple as a volunteer day. So Northwestern Mutual goes, hey, we want to get out of the office. Let's inspire them to come down the lake and pitch in at Marshall Park and get involved. Knowing that their dollar donated can go towards education or to something like buying 3 miles of a buffer strip. But giving people hope.
Yeah.
This is not like other problems in our society. I have an engineering report that we published in 2012 that says that we can fix this problem with $132 million. Period. But not enough people know about the problem. Not enough people know that it's fixable, and we're trying to create the inertia or the cultural change for that to happen. Because if you drive on the highway system here in Madison, there's a thing called the Beltline and Verona Road. They're spending $300 or $400 million to do that because people wanted a shorter commute time, and it's ingrained in our government. So we are trying to have government and our citizens move faster to protect our waters and our lakes.
Oh, that's good. And you guys are doing a big job on that. And that'll have a huge impact going forward if we can get that done. What do you think the likelihood of that budget line happening for the university and that collaboration effort that you're talking about?
So there's a lot of movement in the area of water because water is life. And so there's a lot of people both on the Democrat side and the Republican side. And if they should vote to support this. It's a very basic human life. We have 15,074 lakes. Minnesota has 10. Why shouldn't Madison and the state be number one in thinking about water and our lakes and use our system, our great University of Wisconsin system of schools, and put that towards something like water, which can be fixed around the world. Be known for that.
Yeah, so everyone that's listening outside of Wisconsin, you heard them right. We have more lakes than Minnesota. They just
15,074.
Yeah, they just have it on their license plate.
And we like our lakes big and small. They only call a lake if it's a certain amount of size. We like all of our children, all 15,074.
That's right. Because I love the lake that my family has grown up on up north. And
which lake?
So it's one of the many long lakes.
Okay.
It's about 15 minutes from Wapaka or Wabisa, so it's not on the chain of lakes. It's a little bit south of that. But I think there's at least a dozen long lakes in Wisconsin, so that wouldn't narrow it down too much. But anyhow, so I always end the show with a couple questions. What is the favorite book of all time or favorite book you're reading right now?
Death and the Life of the Great Lakes by Dan Egan.
Okay.
Good book.
Interesting. So it goes along with our theme.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the book.
The book actually is sort of a history lesson on what we have done to to the Great Lakes. We've actually manipulated through overfishing, stocking, transferring the flow of different rivers, have made a big impact. And those lakes are the death and the life of the United States of America.
And so, history lesson as well, correct me if I'm wrong, all of our lakes, including the Great Lakes, were formed by glaciers moving south.
The receding glaciers as they moved back. Yeah.
Yep. And that created the large Great Lakes. Another history quick lesson here, just because it's appropriate to Northwestern Mutual. Do you know what the largest shipwreck was on the Great Lakes?
I do not. Christmas trees?
No, shipwreck.
I know. The one there's one of the shipwrecks had Christmas trees on it.
I don't believe they had Christmas trees, but it was on Lake Superior. It was the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Okay.
And it was named after the former CEO of Northwestern Mutual. We owned that ship, and there was a song by Gordon Lightfoot that talked about that shipwreck, and it's an old song before you and I were born, actually. Mm-hmm. So older than us, anyhow. Yeah. But it was interesting, and I only know that because of the Northwestern Mutual connection to it. I might have known it being in Wisconsin, but probably not. All right, so how can our audience get in touch with you? What's the best way?
So you can reach me on Twitter. My handle is on the Isthmus, or Clean Lakes Alliance, James at cleanlakesalliance.org. Our office number is 255-1000. You want to buy that number, by the way, it's for sale. 255-1000.
For a specific donation amount?
Yeah, exactly.
Bidding it out, that's great.
Yeah,
everything's sellable, right?
Exactly.
That's good. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I want to thank James for being on the show, telling us about his leadership style as well as the lakes. A very, very important topic.
Thank you.
I was excited that Joanna put us back in touch so we could talk about this important topic and talk through the growth of this organization, because it's, since 2010, you guys have really grown really quickly. So, one more plug. You talked about frozen assets. Are there any other ways for our listeners to get involved?
Yeah, actually, if you're listening today or whenever this goes up online, this upcoming Saturday, the Saturday before Father's Day, we have a thing called Loop the Lake. It's a ride around Lake Monona, and in a traditional Wisconsin way, you get to stop for pizza, beer, ice cream, beer, a brat, and a beer as you go all the way around the lake. It's a family ride, actually. We got lots of little kids that do it. They get little ice cream treats and frozen treats as you go around, and so it's a great family time. We end up back there at Olin Park in conjunction with the paddle and portage canoe race.
I was going to ask you then, with all the beer stops, what percentage of people finish versus
all?
Okay,
everybody finishes.
Good. All right, and so as we said, reach out to James. It's a fantastic cause. Get involved and just get informed. I know the website is great for informing, and we talked about a couple of things like the low-hanging fruit, getting the leaves and any grass clippings off the street, but I know you have a list a mile long on your website. So.
14 actions, $132 million.
So if you're one that wants to go with the low-hanging fruit and you think that's enough, we're okay with that. But if you want to go further, get on the website and do some research yourself. And also follow us on Instagram at Josh Kosnick. And please like and subscribe if you found today's episode valuable. And make sure that we continue to inspire people and impact lives. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.